Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and welcome to my review of the new Savant album, Invasion. Now, Invasion is the 10th studio album under the name Savant by the Norwegian producer Alexander Winter. If I'm going to be completely honest, Savant is probably my least favorite person in the music industry, which is kind of why I decided I wanted to do this review. He's very picky about the music, not only the music that he listens to, but is very very judgmental of everyone else's music, especially in the electronic music industry. Although he's highly praised for being an awesome producer, I think he is much overrated, but instead of taking my biased opinions and putting them into this review, I decided to listen to the album in full, unbiased, and that's where I'm going to try to kick off this review. Like I said, this is his 10th album release under the name Savant. He had 2 albums before that, so this technically makes it his 12th album, which is absolutely crazy. He released 2 or 3 records last year, including Protos and Zion, which released in December, I think. Protos was an album I absolutely hated. For some odd reason, it was highly praised by websites like Your EDM and lots of things like that. Although he went for a more non-EDM sounding style, I still managed to not enjoy the album as much as I could. Zion sounded okay, but overall I wasn't crazy about it, so I decided to listen through this, not really expecting much, but ended up enjoying it a lot more than I thought I would. The major bone I had to pick with this record was how long it was. It actually took me a night and a morning to finish, which is probably something like 2.5 hours, I think, to listen through the whole record, which was crazy. It's got 18 tracks, I'm pretty sure, and I take notes on all of them and everything like that. If I went all in all, I'd say about half the tracks were tracks I really liked, and half of them were just kind of hit or miss tracks. Like I had previously mentioned with Skrillex's album Recessed, that also happened with a few tracks that I just wasn't crazy about, a few of them, and the different style changes that he decides to lead in, which is kind of what Savant does in this one. You see a lot of different electro styles. There's a trance song called 1997, which I seem to have a spot for since that was my birth year, and I'm assuming this track was called 1997 because that's when trance was a primary genre, and I'm assuming that's why he named it that anyhow. There's a track called Orphan, which is the intro, and it starts off with some nice vocals. I'm not normally crazy about Savant's vocals, but for some reason I particularly like this track. The title track, Invasion, that's an awesome electro track as well, with a unique and compelling drop, which are most of the tracks that I like on this one are indeed electro tracks that I seem to enjoy. And I think this kind of follows Feed Me's route that he was going with his last album, just lots of hard and interesting electro drops, and I think that's what his next album as Feed Me is probably going to be. He's got a new EP out called Giant Descends on Tokyo, Giant Warrior Descends on Tokyo, something like that. I'll put that picture up there in a second, but yeah, like I said, a lot of the tracks seem to follow it on his last album, Calamari Tuesday. Kind of went for a bunch of different styles, but seemed to retain that nice electro style, which I feel like if Savant would have done this, it would have been a much more appealing album to me, but for some reason he just chooses to take a lot of different styles. There's a track called Trap Slut, and that one is probably one of my least favorites. He tries to take an attempt at doing trap music, even though he seemed to say that, he wants to try out lots of different things and genres that aren't popular right now and making his own style. For some reason, he takes this style that's been overused and overplayed, tries to make it sound unique, but ends up just sounding terrible because it's way too underproduced and he's not used to making this kind of music. It's very clear to see all the different styles Savant pulls from. He uses some lax styles, which I'm crazy about lax. If you guys haven't seen me, I've mashed up his music before. I've used it in mixes, everything. He has a lot of Daft Punk influence and French house kinds of tracks that he uses in songs like Innocence. There's this awesome track called Colorblind, which I think has a Lil Jon sample. Not sure about that, but overall I really liked it. There's a nice piano melody. There's a Kreider style drop in this track. I think a lot of people in the size records industry have been getting into that sound a lot. People like Solo and Kreider, like I'd already said, Tom Starr, lots of artists like this have been getting into this style, and I think Savant actually pulls off this track very well. One of my other least favorite tracks is called Broken, and it's kind of got a drum step sound. It's got a really kind of strange movie orchestral intro, like it belongs in maybe a 60s or 50s film, but then eventually leads into this kind of Pegboard Nerds-esque drum step drop, which I just really wasn't crazy about, and I just wanted this track to end. Overall, I just wasn't crazy about it. A few of the last tracks on the record actually surprised me, and I enjoyed a lot more than the rest of the album. It's kind of that middle section that I'm not crazy about, toward the halfway mark, a little bit before the halfway mark, and after the halfway mark, about half the album in that small middle section. I'm trying to think of how to explain that. I'm not really crazy about those tracks, but some of these, out of these last 4 tracks, one's called, I'm going to try to pronounce this because I can't do this, Problematicalulators. Don't ask me, don't complain if I'm pronouncing that wrong. It's like 5 different words combined together, so I don't know how to explain that, but it's actually an awesome track. It sounds like an indie track, kind of sounds like Porter Robinson to me, with his Worlds album, and it's a really cool track overall. There's a track called Killer, which is an absolutely killer electro tune. I really wish more tracks on this album were drop-centric around stuff like this. The final track on the album is called Dreamscape, and I was completely prepared to take a 9-minute journey into the song. It was definitely worth it, other than like 1997, like I said, seemed to last too long, but this track, Dreamscape, seemed to retain what it could in this track rather than just repeating. With that, those are my favorite and least favorite tracks in a nutshell. Like I usually do in the description, I'm going to put my favorite and least favorite tracks. Make sure to check out the album. I'm going to give this a solid 6, and I'm about to review another album as soon as I'm done with this video. So anyway, you guys will see what that is in a second, or whenever I decide to put it out. Like I said, 6 out of 10. This is Savant Invasion. Go check it out. It's on Bandcamp for free. You can get it, or you can pre-order it on iTunes if you want to. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this review. Bye.